Here is my way too early record prediction for the 2020 Chicago Bears. What's up, guys? I'm back with another Bears offseason prediction video. This time it's going to be a video that's purely just for fun, okay? It's only based on speculation because it is way too early to be predicting anything for the 2020 season, okay? The 2019 season is not even over yet, so I'm jumping way ahead to next year, okay? Free agency hasn't happened yet. The draft has not happened yet. So if any of you guys are watching this in the future, like after free agency, after the draft, don't watch this video, okay? This video is only for fun. It's only for just guessing, okay? Because we really have no way of knowing what's going to happen with the Bears this offseason. But for the purposes of this video, I'm going to assume a couple things, okay? I'm going to assume that over the offseason, the Bears keep Mitch Trubisky as a starting quarterback, and they do bring in a veteran QB behind him to be his backup. I'm predicting Andy Dalton, okay? I'm hoping for other options out there, but with the hiring of Bill Lazor, the offensive coordinator from the Bengals, and, you know, with Andy Dalton being a free agent, I think it makes a lot of sense to bring him in as a potential backup, okay, in case things do go wrong for next year. So I'm predicting that for the QB room. I'm predicting the wide receivers are mainly going to remain the same. I'm predicting we're going to get an upgrade at tight end, whether that be through the draft or through free agency. It's going to be some type of an upgrade over Trey Burton. I'm also predicting we actually fix up our offensive line, not to make it like an elite unit or anything, because this offensive line is not going to go from worse in the NFL to elite in just 1 year, okay? That's going to take a couple of years to build up, but I think we can be hopefully average, maybe at least on the bottom level of average, okay? I just don't want us to be the worst of the worst, okay? Because if we're the worst of the worst again next year, you know, no matter how much other talent we add, it's not going to make any sort of difference. So I'm predicting the offensive line does get fixed up for the most part. And I'm also predicting that for our defense, okay, Clinton-Dix, I'm predicting him to actually leave in free agency. That's one big prediction that's going to affect our defense. Obviously, he was a starting strong safety. I'm predicting our starting linebackers next season to be Roquan Smith and Nick Kwiatkowski. I think that Danny Trevathan actually leaves in free agency because, guys, we just don't have enough money to pay him, okay? So I think Danny leaves, which is really going to be sad to see for me because he's one of my favorite players on this team. But regardless, you know, our cap space is very limited. And other than that, I don't really expect any big changes on this defense. We might bring in some other talent. Obviously, maybe some backups. Maybe a starting number 2 cornerback would be really good to replace Prince Amukamara, but that is going to be really tough to find. So if we can get that through the draft or maybe in free agency, it's going to have to be some cheap option because, again, we don't have that much cap space. So replacing Prince would be, really good in my opinion. But overall, those are the main changes I think are going to happen with this roster. It's not going to be anything too big on the defensive side, but on the offensive side, really anybody could change because our offense was so freaking bad. So those are my predictions for the roster. But overall, guys, I just want to reiterate that, look, the Chicago Bears last season, even with how horrendous our offense was, okay, even with how bad the season turned out, we still went 8-8 last year, okay? 8-8 is still, that's not a bad record per se. Now, when you compare that to our Super Bowl expectations at the beginning of the year, obviously it looks horrible because we failed to, live up to expectations. But when you look at the really hard schedule that we had, okay, playing teams like the Saints, the Chiefs, the Packers twice a year, the Vikings twice a year, that's a really tough schedule, and we finished at 8-8 still. So there is still a lot of hope in this Bears roster, okay? I'm seeing too many fans out there giving up, thinking that we're going to go back to being 4-12, 3-13, even worse. The media is completely writing us off. But if we can just fix up this offense and refine things on the defensive side of the football, okay? You have to remember that even with our injuries, our defense was still top 10, okay? Khalil Mack was playing hurt the entire season, reports came out. Akeem Hicks was out not the entire season, but for the majority of the season. And we had so many injuries on the defense, like Roquan Smith, Bilal Nichols, Eddie Goldman too. It feels like everybody was injured on defense, and we were still a top 10 unit. That's not good enough, okay? We have to be top 1 because with the talent that we have, we're more than capable of being top 1. So our defense does need to improve, but if our offense can be at least average, we are going to go back to being a Super Bowl contending team next year. But with all that aside, let's get into my predictions now. And I've pulled up the 2020 Chicago Bears schedule here. I'll put that on the screen right now. This is not the official order of the teams we're going to be facing, because we don't know that until like March, I believe. So without further ado, let's begin. Okay, so the first team we have on here is the Atlanta Falcons at the Atlanta Falcons in Atlanta. I think it's going to be a win for our team. Okay, the Falcons defense is really lacking. They could obviously improve over the offseason, but I think this is a team that we can really win against in Atlanta. So that's one dub I have. Next, we have the Carolina Panthers. Okay, the Carolina Panthers have so many question marks regarding their franchise right now. There's question marks considering if Cam Newton is going to be the future of that franchise. There's question marks on the defensive side. They fired Ron Rivera, so I think it's going to be a down year for the Panthers, and I actually have us beating that team as well. Next, we have the Detroit Lions. Okay, the Detroit Lions, we have owned this team in the past couple years. Okay, we've swept them 2 years in a row, and I think that's actually going to change this upcoming season just because of like probability. Okay, I think we're going to lose at least one to the Lions, and I think that's going to be the one in Detroit. So that one is going to be a loss. Next, we got the Green Bay Packers at Soldier Field. Guys, this is a must win for our team. I so badly want to beat this bullshit team that relies on help from the referees, okay? Their fan base is so annoying. I want to beat this team so badly in Soldier Field, especially after what happened in the opener last season. So I think the Bears are going to be fired up. They're going to be charged up for this game. They're going to be wanting to, prove to the world that things have changed and that they are back to being a Super Bowl contender. I have the Bears actually beating this Green Bay team. And also, I think the Packers are actually going to have a regression next year. I'm not saying that only because I'm a Bears fan. If you look at that team, okay, there's a lot of question marks on both sides of the football. Okay, Aaron Rodgers, as good as he has not been the Aaron Rodgers of old. Okay, he's not the same, top 3 quarterback that he was earlier in his career. And that defense, that run defense particularly, is so freaking bad. Now, you can fix that or at least make it better over the offseason, but I don't think it's going to be elite anytime soon. I have the Bears going into Soldier Field and beating the Green Bay Packers. Next, we got the Minnesota Vikings. This is another team that we have dominated over the past 2 years. We have swept them both years under Matt Nagy, and I think that's going to change again, okay? I don't know why, but I have a feeling that we're not going to continue just sweeping all these teams, but we are going to beat the Vikings at least once. And that's going to be in Soldier Field as well. So I have that being a dub. Next, we got the New Orleans Saints. Screw this team, okay? With how they made fun of Tariq Cohen in the last game we played against them and with how much they've been beating us over the past couple of years, I do not like the Saints at all. I think we actually beat them for once, okay? It's going to be in Soldier Field. The Bears are going to be wanting revenge for how the Saints treated them in the last matchup that they had, how the Saints, have seemingly always beaten them over the past couple of years. So I think the Bears actually get it done in Soldier Field against the Saints, because I also expect the Saints to regress at least a little bit from last year, okay, because they suffered another heartbreaking loss and Drew Brees is getting older, so that team is going to regress a little bit. Next, we got the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in Soldier Field. I actually have this being a loss, and I'm only saying that because every single year the Bears lose to a team that they're not supposed to lose to, and I think it's going to be the Tampa Bay Buccaneers next year because they still do have, some talent on their roster, okay, with Jameis Winston probably returning. Jameis, although, he throws a lot of picks, okay, he's probably going to throw picks in this game too. He does give you a chance of winning sometimes when he is playing at his best, so I think the Buccaneers somehow get it done in Soldier Field, okay? They get revenge on us for that thrashing we gave them last year in 2018. 2 years ago. So the Buccaneers win this one. Next, we got the Houston Texans. I have that being a loss as well. This Texans team is really good. I think it's actually going to improve for next year because they suffered a really heartbreaking loss in the playoffs, and that defense is going to get better probably. They're probably going to fire their defensive coordinator, whoever that was, because that defense was horrible in the playoffs. They're going to add talent on defense as well, so it's going to be a pretty tough team to beat. I think they beat us in Soldier Field. Next, we got the Indianapolis Colts. This is a team that I feel like we can beat because it's not going to be a world beater next year. I think they're going to take a step back with Jacoby Brissett because I don't think he's going to be the quarterback of the future for them, okay? Jacoby Brissett is pretty good, but I don't think he's that franchise quarterback that can take you to a Super Bowl because this Colts team still has a ton of holes to fill. Obviously, it's way too early to predict anything because they could fill these holes in the offseason, but I think we beat the Colts in Soldier Field. Next, we got the Detroit Lions in Chicago. I think we definitely beat them at least once in Chicago, so that's a dub. Next, we got the Packers in Green Bay. That's going to be a loss in my opinion. We cannot seem to beat the Packers in Green Bay. As of right now, I don't think that's going to change, so that's going to be a loss. Next, we got the Jacksonville Jaguars in Jacksonville. And this is actually going to be a win, I feel like, because the Jaguars were a bad football team last year. And I think that Gardner Minshew is going to be the starter for next season. But it's going to take a while for him to fully develop. He was okay in spurts this season. But, with the lack of talent around him, they have pretty much no receivers to throw to. I mean, it's going to be tough for them to win football games. So I have us beating the Jaguars in Jacksonville. Next, we got the Vikings in Minnesota. I have this being a loss as well because I don't think we're going to continue our streak of sweeping the division over and over again, or at least sweeping the Vikings and the Lions. So we are going to lose to the Vikings in Minnesota because the Vikings are still a pretty good football team. After that, we got the Tennessee Titans. I have this being a loss, and I'm saying that because of Derrick Henry and that offense, okay, with Ryan Tannehill. I think it's going to actually get better for next season. I think the Titans are seriously going to be a Super Bowl contender because, look, they have a lot of talent on both sides of the football, and with a pretty young coach, relatively young coach, he doesn't have that much experience in the NFL. They still went to the AFC Championship game somehow, beating teams like the Ravens and the Patriots. I think the Titans actually get better next year, and in Tennessee, that's going to be a pretty tough game. I have us losing that one. The New York Giants in Soldier Field, I don't even have to talk about that. The Giants are a dumpster fire. Okay, we're going to beat that team in Chicago. And finally, the Los Angeles Rams in LA. I have that being a win as well because I think our defense goes back to normal next year. And by normal, I mean like top 3, potentially top 1. Okay, I think it's going to be a really tough unit. And when our defense is firing on all cylinders, when Akeem Hicks is in there as well, it makes life really, really tough on Jared Goff. And I think we force him to make a lot of mistakes, as he usually does against our team. And I have us beating that team in a close matchup. So there you have it. That's my way too early record prediction for the 2020 Chicago Bears. I have us going 10-6 and sneaking into the playoffs as a wild card team. As of right now, okay, all this could change based on how we do over the offseason. If we don't have as good of an offseason as I'm thinking we can have, then we're probably going to take a step back, maybe 7-9, maybe even worse. But if we do have a pretty good offseason, one that's even better than I'm predicting, then we could potentially go, 13-3 maybe, okay? That might be a stretch right now, but guys, I'm telling you, there is still a lot of talent on this football team, so we can make it to the playoffs again next year. That is my way too early prediction. Let me know your prediction in the comments down below. But that is all, and bear down.